Good afternoon. Thanks for the introduction, Celine. Thanks, Isabel, for joining. As we have a little afternoon dip around like 3:30 or so, who of you has actually heard of inner and open source before? Okay, so a couple of people, but for the people who've never heard of it, can you explain what it actually is?
So let's start with open source. Who here is a software developer or has software deployed in their enterprise? So likely, even if you carry a mobile phone with you, you've got open source in use. What's open source to me is any project that's licensed under a open source initiative approved open source license. But what it is as well is a project that's being developed and collaborated on in a very open way, where people across organizations can work together to build something that's bigger than what their organizations can achieve. What that means is to share not only the source code, but also design decisions, design documents, and roadmap discussions. Now, what InsurTech does is take the lessons learned from open source projects and deploy them inside the enterprise, enabling teams to work across boundaries, across departments, and across subsidiaries, and thus become more innovative and to work in cross-technical teams.
Okay, and why would you say is this actually relevant for an audience like this here at NOAH?
So here at NOAH, there's both a mixture of startups as well as enterprises. So the way I've come to learn about open source projects, but also about inner source projects, is that this kind of approach really boosts innovation by bringing together the people interested in these projects. It also helps breaking down silos if you're in a large enterprise. Just imagine where you've got independent teams, both are working on separate products, but both essentially from time to time have to solve the same problems. InsurTech enables you to collaborate and essentially with less resources build something bigger.
Okay, so you've already touched a bit of, with your points on the advantages of it. I remember in the talk that you've had a couple of weeks ago, you were also talking about how that actually can be a little bit like you're using the oven of another person. Can you describe a little bit of that?
So there's a challenge there if you have teams that are fairly autonomous. You may have development guidelines, but over time, each team develops their own kind of culture. So what happens is that you've got two teams. Team A wants to do something in the code base of Team B. They go there, they send modifications there. However, Team B is like, I can't accept that, because it doesn't follow my coding guidelines, it doesn't follow my quality standards, maybe it doesn't even fit into my roadmap. So there is a saying within the InsurTech community, which is like, mi casa es su casa. If you come visit me, I will tell you what's special and peculiar about my home. So you will be a good guest by following these rules. I'm a good host by telling you about these rules. Like if you come to my place, it's a Berlin old flat. What I will tell you is to not turn on the oven and the device for heating water, because otherwise the fuse will burn through. Similar thing you will do in your InsurTech project. You will write down all of the things that people have fallen over in the past in order to make it easier for newcomers to get started.
Okay, and why would I actually come to your house after all? Like, why would I not let you put on the oven?
So sometimes it's easier to do something yourself, or it's faster to do something yourself, especially if you imagine having dependencies on other teams. I know that me as a developer, I sometimes had the impression that it's easier to make a tiny fix myself instead of going through the prioritization chain, instead of going through all of the hierarchy. InsurTech gives you a framework where if there are simple changes, you can just simply go there, do them yourself, and the teams that owns the project will review them and hopefully accept them. Essentially like you do in open source as well. If you deploy an open source project in-house, at some point you will want to make modifications for that to match exactly your use case. You're free to do that. If you contribute it back to the upstream project, you even save the maintenance cost for the changes you made.
Okay. And now Europace, of course, belongs to a bigger organization called Hypoport. Now, you've talked about the advantages that a developer sees when it comes to inner and open source, but in your case, you're using GitHub as a big platform for your collaboration internally, but how did your business level managers understand the advantages of that?
So first of all, there's still a developer induced advantage for GitHub. It's something that's being used externally from our company already. So if you have new hires, it's much faster to get them up to speed because they know this platform already. They know them from other companies that they've been working for. They may even know them from open source they are involved with. Apart from that, with the GitHub Enterprise offering, there's a nice way to separate organizations and to have like a separate way of organizing your code base and your projects, but still collaborate across these organizations very easily. So you have a nice balance between autonomy and collaboration.
Okay. And apart from, of course, your organization, to generalize it a little bit more, who would you say qualifies for inner source? Like, for who is it beneficial, actually?
Well, I'm an open source proponent. I would say for everyone. But granted, if you are a startup which wants to move extremely fast and you're like a 5-person startup, that does give you a certain overhead. There is a saying where if you want to move fast, you better move alone. But if you want to move far, you have to collaborate. Inner source enables you to scale. It enables you to increase your team size and to move further than you would otherwise. Now, this is the startup side. There's also the enterprise side. I do think there's huge benefits to using inner source within the enterprise, where I know people working in teams that are essentially working in silos. Inner source gives you a way to cross these silos and to start working cross-team in a structured way with proven patterns that you can use there. So for InsurCommons.org, you have an organization where several also large enterprises are sharing patterns and lessons learned, where people started crossing these boundaries, writing up which kinds of patterns enable this crossing. Of course, for large enterprises which are used to a top-down management structure, this means a culture change. What can happen is suddenly that someone within your team starts doing stuff that's beneficial to a different team. So they are no longer contributing to your original purpose. So this is something that companies will have to work out.
Yeah, okay. But I guess that's a very big discussion about culture change that big companies, when they have to undergo it, will take a little bit longer. But so yeah, thank you very much for answering all the questions. And if there is any follow-up questions from your side, please come and just ask. We're going to be standing over there on the GitHub booth. Thanks.